Have you ever had that feeling, maybe when a new year rolls around, that you're just stuck in a loop? The feeling that this year is going to be a carbon copy of the last one. You set all these goals, you have the best intentions, but somehow you end up on the same roads, hitting the same walls. Well, what if that feeling wasn't just in your head? And what if the key to breaking that cycle was also right there in your head? And that feeling, right, that sense of being trapped in a repeating pattern, it's so real for so many of us. It's this deep sense that your past is somehow writing your future. But here's the thing, it just doesn't have to be that way. The real question is, how do you break free from a cycle that feels so automatic? So to understand the loop, we've got to look at the blueprint that's creating it in the first place. Because it turns out, this feeling of being stuck isn't random at all. It's actually guided by a hidden plan, a kind of internal play that we wrote for ourselves a long, long time ago without even realizing we were the authors. In the world of psychology, this is what's called a life script. And that's exactly what it is, an unconscious blueprint for your life. Imagine it's a play you wrote when you were a little kid, based on all the messages you got from the world and the conclusions you drew from them. And remember, these weren't logical adult decisions. They were deep, emotional beliefs formed with a child's limited view of how everything works. And this is how it happens. As kids, we take in all these little cues, and the not-so-little ones too, and we make these huge, sweeping judgments. A parent's constant criticism might lead to the core belief that, I'm not good enough. Watching your family struggle could cement the idea that life is just hard. And once that script is written, we often spend the rest of our lives unconsciously looking for ways to prove that it's true. Okay, so we've got this psychological script, but how exactly does a belief we formed as a kid turn into our automatic reality as an adult? Well, this is where the psychology meets the neuroscience. It's where the story in our mind becomes a physical structure in our brain. See, inside your head, there's this constant tug of war going on. You've got your prefrontal cortex. That's the CEO. It's the part of you that says, okay, new year, new me, I'm going to change. But then you've got the basal ganglia. Think of that as the factory floor. It's where all your habits are stored and it runs on autopilot to save energy. Now guess which one wins when you're tired, stressed, or just not paying attention? Yeah, the autopilot. And this leads to something really important, neural resistance. Your brain, just to be efficient, would much rather use the roads it's already built. So trying to create a new habit is like hacking a path through a dense jungle with a machete. But falling back into old patterns, that's like cruising down a 6-lane superhighway. That feeling of resistance you get when you try to change, it's real and it's wired into your brain. And as if that wasn't enough, there's another layer. Our brains have this built-in negativity bias. You have to remember, from an evolutionary standpoint, our brains didn't evolve to make us happy. They evolved to keep us alive. And that means they are constantly scanning for threats, for what's wrong, for the negative stuff. There's a great saying for this. The brain is like Velcro for negative experiences. When something bad happens, you get criticized, you make a mistake, you feel embarrassed, your brain just latches right onto it. That experience sticks, leaving a really strong neural imprint. But the good stuff, the compliments, the little wins, the moments of real joy, that stuff tends to be like Teflon. It just slides right off unless you make a conscious effort to hold on to it. So you've got this combination of neural resistance and a negativity bias, and together they keep those old negative life scripts running on a powerful automatic loop. Okay, so that's the setup. That's the problem. Our brains are basically hardwired to stick with the old program and focus on the bad stuff. But this is the turning point. This is where the whole story changes. For centuries, we thought the adult brain was basically fixed, but we now know that is completely, fundamentally wrong, thanks to the incredible discovery of neuroplasticity. This is the golden rule of how your brain changes. Neurons that fire together, wire together. All it means is that every single time you have a thought or a feeling, a specific set of neurons lights up. And the more you repeat that thought, the stronger the connection between those neurons becomes. They literally build a stronger pathway, making it easier to have that same thought next time. And this leads to a game-changing question. If repeating our thoughts is what wires the brain, what if we could choose which thoughts we repeat? This is the whole idea behind self-directed neuroplasticity. It means you're not just a passive victim of your brain's old wiring. You can actually be the electrician. Let's just break this down because it's so important. Self-directed neuroplasticity means using your conscious mind, your focus, your attention, your willpower to intentionally change the physical structure and function of your brain.
By focusing your attention in new ways, again and again, you build new neural pathways. You can literally use your mind to change your brain. Okay, so this all sounds amazing in theory, right? But how do we actually do it? How do we take this big idea of self-directed neuroplasticity and turn it into something practical we can use to rewrite those old life scripts? Let's get into the how-to. One of the most powerful and proven ways to do this is a technique called cognitive reframing. It comes from cognitive therapy, and it's pretty straightforward. You learn to first spot those automatic, unhelpful thoughts that your old script is feeding you, and then you consciously challenge and change the way you're looking at the situation. It's the active process of rewriting your story one thought at a time. So, how do you actually reframe? Well, you can boil it down to 3 pretty simple steps. First, you have to catch the thought. What's that core belief that's running the show? Is it, I'm a failure, or I'm unlovable? Second, you become a detective. You start looking for evidence that proves that belief isn't 100% true. You're not trying to pretend the bad stuff didn't happen, you're just looking for cracks in the old story. And finally, you create a new, more balanced belief that actually fits all the evidence, the good and the bad. Let's look at a real example. Say your core belief is, I'm unlovable. Your old script will find tons of evidence for that. But then you start the detective work. Hang on, I had some really good friends in school, my neighbor and I became close, and that person at work always asks me to get coffee. Suddenly, that old belief isn't 100% true anymore, is it? So you form a new, more balanced belief. Not everyone is going to like me all the time, but I am likable to some people. You see how that works? Every single time you do that, you weaken the old neural pathway, and you start building a new one. And this really brings us full circle. We started out with that feeling of being stuck in a loop, trapped by a script we wrote a long time ago, but now we can see that we aren't just the actors in this old play. We're the writers, and we can start a rewrite anytime we want. And what's so empowering about this is that it's not just about fixing what's broken. It's not a chore. It's about making this incredible shift from a life of just getting by, of surviving your script, to a life of actively and consciously thriving, of living out the story you actually want to tell. This quote really just says it all, doesn't it? Wasting your one precious life, playing out an old, unhelpful story, that's just surviving. The whole point of this is to live fully, to create a reality where you are in control of your own narrative, and to build a life that you are genuinely excited to wake up to. You absolutely deserve that. So I'll leave you with this question. Your brain is right there, ready and waiting for new instructions. It will strengthen whatever pathways you choose to walk down, again and again. The pen is in your hand. So what's the very first sentence of your new story going to be?